guys, Dr. Laurie Cestnick here today talking about anxiety. This is our second video on anxiety. The first bleeds into this one, so have a look. Study after study and case after case shows that the best way to handle anxiety, and the only way in fact to handle anxiety really, is to address it head on. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how to deal with your trauma by addressing it head on and not avoiding it. Trauma is something that is deep in your body. Trauma is something that does not require thought, because the fear response is so profound that we go from trigger, which could be something you see or hear or smell or maybe even feel, but there's a sensation, a trigger, that automatically leads to a traumatic fear-based response. It's that powerful. It is that strong. In fact, because we tend to avoid when we have high levels of anxiety, we don't even want to think about the event either. So we just tend to just see or feel something in your mind, so that boom, we just feel this fear response. So the goal to deal with trauma is replace that fear response with a different emotion. We want to replace that fear response with a feeling of relaxation or even love, or at least neutrality, right? We want to eliminate that fear response with a different response. The only way to really do this is to force yourself not to avoid thinking about these things, but to actually start trying to immerse yourself in them. And as you do, you have to make sure your body is relaxed, and you have to be sort of in a meditative state where, as you are envisioning these traumatic events and experiences that are bothering you, you are able to feel a different response other than anxiety. Let me give you an example. Let's say you were in the military and you witnessed some pretty horrible things in the military, maybe deaths, friends dying, and so forth. Let's say that happened to you. That's pretty traumatic. So you might hear the word of the place where that happened and automatically feel fear. Or you might hear the name of a person that you know died and automatically feel that fear response. So what we need to do is place ourselves in a very relaxed state. Okay, you're deep breathing, where you were able to experience those triggers. And instead of having the fear response, your body is going to be in a relaxed state as you are exposed to those triggers. Okay. Now, what you want to do is you want to visualize things that are going to help you replace that fear response with something else. Let me give you an example. Let's say you were in the military and that happened to you and you saw a friend die. What you can do is, as you slowly bring yourself to think about that traumatic event, maybe you start by envisioning what happened earlier that day, or thinking about the person and how much you love them and how much you miss them, all the good things about them. As you slowly start experiencing more and more triggers of your anxiety and you keep your body in a relaxed state, I want you to start visualizing things that bring more calm and more peace to your life when you think about those things and experience those triggers. You want to start feeling love from people that might have been in the room, love for yourself. Maybe your creator helps you. Maybe the idea that God is with you can help you. Maybe you image God with you as you're putting yourself back into that environment. Maybe you imagine your best friend or a family member or your dog or even your older self holding the hand of your younger self. Whatever it's going to take, you want to walk into this situation again in your mind with a very relaxed body, different feelings that aren't fear-based, to try to replace that very intense feeling of trauma with a different emotion. This isn't easy, but I assure you, and I know for a fact, that if you practice this repeatedly, day after day, several times a day, where you are able to expose yourself to the triggers that create the anxiety, replace that fear response with another response. It doesn't even have to be a feeling of calm or love. It can just be a feeling of no feeling. Trying to experience those triggers with no response. But the more and more you do this, you will not, I assure you, eventually you will not feel that traumatic experience. But because it is so deep and because it is so in your body to such an extent, it doesn't even require thought, where it goes from trigger to trauma. It takes a lot of practice and repetition. But you will get there. If you practice this day in and day out for a while, you will eventually replace that traumatic response with a better response. Okay? I'll see you soon. Dr. Laurie Cestnick, Mind Matters. See you soon.